I think I didn't do anything wrong, just had a little fun and let someone tattoo their initials on me. What's the harm in a joke? Now I'm sitting at my kitchen table, divorce papers in front of me, and everyone acts like I'm the bad guy. All I wanted was to feel special, but apparently that's a crime now. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The neon sign of Jasper's tattoo studio buzzed overhead as I pushed through the glass door, my heart racing with excitement I hadn't felt in years. The familiar scent of antiseptic and ink hit me immediately, bringing back memories of when Jasper and I used to date back in college. He looked up from his workstation, that same crooked smile spreading across his face. "Irene Voss," he drawled, setting down his tattoo gun. "Never thought I'd see you in here again. What brings a respectable HR assistant to my humble shop?" I laughed, feeling more alive than I had in months. "Maybe I'm not as respectable as you think." The words came out flirtier than I intended, but I didn't care. Daniel had been so boring lately, always buried in his software engineering projects, barely noticing me anymore. Well, Jasper stood up, wiping his hands on a towel. "What can I do for you? Please tell me you're finally ready for that tattoo we talked about back in the day." "Actually," I bit my lip, "I was thinking about something small. Maybe your initials. Just as a joke, you know? Something to remember old times." Jasper raised an eyebrow. "My initials? That's pretty bold for a married woman." He glanced at my wedding ring. "What would Daniel think about that?" "Daniel doesn't have to know," I said quickly. "It's just a harmless prank between old friends. He's too uptight anyway. He wouldn't get it. Besides, it'll be somewhere he won't see it." Jasper leaned against his workstation, studying me with those dark eyes that used to make my knees weak. "You sure about this, Irene? Once it's on there, it's permanent." "I'm sure," I said, surprising myself with how confident I sounded. "Life's too short to play it safe all the time." He shrugged and gestured toward the chair. "Your call. Where do you want it?" "My hip," I said without hesitation. Small letters, nothing too obvious. As Jasper prepared his equipment, my phone buzzed. Daniel's name appeared on the screen. "Hey babe, where are you? Thought you'd be home by now." I quickly typed back, "Out with Tess, girl talk, be home later." "Everything okay?" Jasper asked, noticing my phone. "Just Daniel being his usual controlling self," I muttered. "Always needs to know where I am every second." "Some things never change," Jasper chuckled. "Remember how jealous he used to get when we'd hang out?" "That was different. We were just friends then." I paused. "We're still just friends now?" "Of course." Jasper's voice carried a hint of amusement. "Just friends who are about to permanently mark you with my initials." The tattoo gun started buzzing, and I felt the familiar sting as the needle touched my skin. "JK," in elegant script, right on my left hip. It was small, maybe an inch wide, but it felt huge, significant, rebellious. "There," Jasper said, wiping away the excess ink. "What do you think?" I looked in the mirror he held up, admiring his work. The letters looked perfect, artistic even. "It's beautiful," I breathed. "It suits you," he said, his hand lingering on my shoulder as he applied the bandage. "Always knew you had a wild side under all that suburban housewife routine." I felt heat rise in my cheeks. "I'm not that suburban." "No," he agreed, his voice dropping lower. "You're definitely not." My phone buzzed again. "Daniel, Tess says you're not with her. Where are you really?" My stomach dropped. Of course he'd check. He was always so paranoid, so suspicious. I quickly called Tess. "Hey, I need a favor," I said when she picked up. "If Daniel asks, I was with you tonight, okay? Girl talk at that new cafe downtown." "Irene, what's going on?" Tess sounded worried. "Nothing serious, just need some cover. I'll explain later." There was a pause. "Okay, but you owe me an explanation." I hung up and texted Daniel back. Sorry, Tess stepped away when you called her. We're at that new cafe on 5th Street. Lost track of time. Trouble in paradise? Jasper asked, cleaning up his station. Daniel's just... He doesn't understand me anymore. Everything has to be so serious, so responsible. When's the last time we did anything spontaneous? Well, you're being spontaneous now, Jasper pointed out. Exactly. I stood up, careful not to disturb the fresh tattoo. This feels good. It feels like me again. The real you was always more interesting than the version you show him, Jasper said, walking me to the door. Maybe, I admitted. Sometimes I think I settled too quickly. Got married too young. It's never too late to remember who you really are, he said, holding the door open. As I walked to my car, I felt a thrill of excitement mixed with guilt, but the guilt felt good too, in a strange way, like I was finally doing something for myself instead of always being the perfect wife and mother. At home, Daniel was waiting in the living room, Layla already in bed. He looked up from his laptop when I walked in. How was your night with Tess? He asked, but there was something in his tone. Fine, I said casually. Just caught up, you know how it is. She seemed surprised when I called her. She was in the bathroom, I lied smoothly. We were talking about girl stuff anyway. Nothing you'd be interested in. Daniel closed his laptop. Irene, is everything okay between us? You've seemed distant lately. I'm fine, I said, heading toward the stairs. Just tired. Wait, he said, standing up. What's that on your shirt? I looked down and saw a small spot of blood where the tattoo was. Oh, that? I scratched myself on a chair at the cafe. It's nothing. Daniel stepped closer, concern in his eyes. Let me see. It's fine, Daniel, I said, backing away. Just a little scratch. You don't need to examine every little thing. I'm just worried about you, he said softly. Well, don't be, I snapped, surprising both of us with my tone. I can take care of myself. I hurried upstairs before he could respond, my heart pounding. In the bathroom, I carefully peeled back the bandage to look at Jasper's initials. They were red and slightly swollen, but they looked perfect. Permanent, mine. As I got ready for bed, I caught Daniel's reflection in the mirror, standing in the doorway watching me with a confused expression. Irene? What? I love you, he said quietly. The words should have made me feel guilty, but instead they just made me feel trapped. I know, I said, not turning around. That night, as Daniel slept beside me, I traced the outline of the tattoo through my pajamas. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a secret that was just mine, something Daniel couldn't control or analyze or fix. I was already planning my next visit to Jasper's studio. 2 weeks later, I found myself at our usual cafe with my friend group, practically vibrating with the need to share my secret. The tattoo had healed beautifully, and every time I caught a glimpse of it in the mirror, I felt that same rush of rebellion. You seem different lately, said Rebecca, stirring her latte. Happier, more, I don't know, alive? Maybe I am, I said with a mysterious smile. I've been doing some things for myself lately, taking back control of my life. Good for you, chimed in Ashley. You've been so focused on Daniel and Layla, you forgot about yourself. Exactly. I leaned forward conspiratorially. Actually, I did something pretty wild recently. Got a tattoo. The table went silent, then erupted in excited chatter. No way, Rebecca gasped. Where? What is it? It's small, I said, enjoying the attention. Just initials. Somewhere Daniel will never see it. Whose initials? Ashley asked with a wicked grin. I paused dramatically. Let's just say it's someone from my past, someone who appreciates the real me. Irene, Rebecca's eyes widened. You didn't. It's not what you think, I said quickly, though I loved that they thought it was exactly what it was. It's just symbolic, a reminder that I'm still my own person. Does Daniel know? Asked Jennifer, the most conservative of our group. God, no, I laughed. He'd have a complete meltdown. He's already been acting all suspicious and controlling lately. always questioning where I am, who I'm with. That's not healthy, Ashley said, shaking her head. A husband should trust his wife. Right? Sometimes I feel like I'm suffocating, like I can't do anything without his permission. The conversation continued for another hour, with my friends egging me on, telling me how brave I was, how Daniel needed to loosen up. By the time I left, I felt completely vindicated in my choices. At home, Daniel was helping Layla with homework at the kitchen table. He looked up when I walked in, and I could see the question in his eyes. "How are the girls?" he asked. "Fine," I said, not really looking at him. "Same old gossip." "You've been spending a lot of time out lately," he observed carefully. "Is that a problem?" I asked, immediately defensive. "No, it's just, we used to spend more time together, as a family." "Maybe if you were more interesting to be around," I said before I could stop myself. Daniel's face fell, and I saw Layla look up from her homework with wide eyes. "Irene," Daniel said quietly, "can we talk privately?" "About what? My right to have friends." "That's not what because that's what this sounds like. You're upset that I have a life outside this house." "Mummy, why are you yelling?" Layla asked in a small voice. "I'm not yelling, sweetheart," I said, forcing my voice to be gentler. "Daddy's just being silly." Daniel looked like I'd slapped him. "I think I'll take Layla upstairs to finish her homework," he said stiffly. After they left, I poured myself a glass of wine and scrolled through social media. I found myself typing a post. "When your husband thinks having friends is a crime, some people need to learn that marriage isn't ownership." Independent woman, or know your worth. The likes and supportive comments started rolling in immediately. My friends from the cafe, old college buddies, even some co-workers. Everyone agreed that Daniel was being unreasonable. But mixed in with the support were a few comments that made me pause. "Girl, be careful. This sounds like trouble brewing." "Maybe talk to him instead of posting about it." "Your husband seems like a good guy from what I remember. What's really going on?" I deleted those comments quickly. They didn't understand. They hadn't been in my shoes, feeling trapped and unappreciated. Over the next few days, I found myself pulling away from Daniel even more. When he tried to initiate conversations, I gave short answers. When he suggested family activities, I had other plans. When he reached for me in bed, I claimed to be tired. Meanwhile, I'd started texting with Jasper more frequently. Nothing inappropriate, just friendly conversations about art, music, life. He understood me in ways Daniel never had. He saw the real me, not just the wife and mother I'd become. "How's married life treating you?" he texted one afternoon while I was at work. "Like a slow death by boredom," I replied. "That's harsh. What happened to the passionate woman I used to know?" "She got buried under laundry and PTA meetings. Maybe she just needs someone to help her remember who she is." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Maybe she does. That evening, Daniel's parents came over for dinner. Nadia, his mother, was always polite but distant with me. His father, Theo, was warmer, but I could tell they both disapproved of how I'd been acting lately. "Irene seems tired," I overheard Nadia whisper to Daniel in the kitchen. "She's been going out a lot with friends," Daniel replied. "I think she needs space." "Maybe too much space," Nadia said pointedly. During dinner, I felt their eyes on me, judging. When Layla mentioned that Mommy had been on her phone a lot, I saw Nadia and Theo exchange a look. "Everyone needs friends," I said defensively, though no one had said anything. "Of course," Theo said carefully. "It's just important to maintain balance." "I think I know how to balance my own life," I snapped. The table fell silent. Layla looked confused, Daniel looked embarrassed, and his parents looked shocked. "I'm sorry," Nadia said slowly. "I didn't realize we were discussing your personal life." "You weren't," I said, standing up, "but apparently everyone thinks they have opinions about it anyway." I left the table and went upstairs, my heart pounding with anger and something that felt like shame. Through the floor, I could hear Daniel apologizing to his parents, explaining that I'd been under stress lately. Later, after his parents left, Daniel came upstairs to find me scrolling through my phone in bed. "We need to talk," he said. "About what? How your parents think I'm a terrible wife?" "They don't think that. They're just concerned." "About what, exactly?" Daniel sat on the edge of the bed. "About us, about our marriage, about the fact that you seem angry all the time." "Maybe I have reasons to be angry." "Like what?" I looked at him, this man I'd married 8 years ago, and felt nothing but irritation. "Like the fact that you don't even see me anymore. I'm just the person who does your laundry and raises your daughter." "Our daughter," he corrected quietly. "Whatever. The point is, I'm invisible to you unless I'm not doing what you expect." "That's not true." "Isn't it? When's the last time you asked me about my dreams, my goals, what I want out of life?" Daniel was quiet for a moment. "What do you want out of life, Irene?" "I want to feel alive," I said. "I want to feel like I matter, like I'm more than just a role I'm playing." "You do matter. You matter to me, to Layla." "No," I interrupted. "I matter to you as long as I'm being the perfect wife. But the real me, you don't even know who that is anymore." Daniel reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. "I want to know," he said softly. "Help me understand." But I was already turning away, pulling the covers up to my chin. It's too late for that. As I lay there pretending to sleep, I felt the tattoo against my hip like a secret burn. Tomorrow, I decided, I would text Jasper and suggest we meet for coffee. Just as friends, of course. Just to talk to someone who really understood me. The family dinner at Daniel's parents' house was supposed to be a peaceful Sunday tradition, but I could feel the tension the moment we walked through the door. Nadia's smile was strained, and Theo kept glancing between Daniel and me, like he was watching a slow-motion car crash. "Irene, you look tired," Nadia said as she took our coats. "Are you feeling all right?" "I'm fine," I replied curtly. "Just busy with work and friends." "Yes, Daniel mentioned you've been quite social lately." There was something in her tone that made my hackles rise. "Is that a problem?" "Of course not, dear. It's just that some of the ladies from church have mentioned seeing you around town at odd hours. During work time, specifically." My blood ran cold. I'd been meeting Jasper for coffee twice this week, both times during my lunch break that I'd extended without telling my boss. "I'm allowed to take lunch breaks." 3-hour lunch breaks? Nadia's eyebrows rose. "That seems excessive." "I don't know what you're talking about," I lied, but I could see Daniel watching me carefully. During dinner, the conversation was stilted. Layla chattered about school, oblivious to the undercurrents, but the adults barely spoke. Finally, Theo cleared his throat. "Daniel, how are things at work? Any interesting projects?" As Daniel launched into a description of his latest software development, I found myself scrolling through my phone under the table. Jasper had sent me a photo of a new piece he was working on, and I smiled despite myself. "Irene," Nadia's sharp voice cut through my thoughts. "It's rude to be on your phone during dinner." "I'm just checking work emails," I said defensively. "On Sunday." "Some of us have demanding jobs." "Yes, I'm sure HR is very demanding," Nadia said dryly. The comment stung because it was true. My job wasn't particularly demanding, and everyone knew it. I felt my face flush with embarrassment and anger. Maybe if people minded their own business instead of gossiping at church, the world would be a better place, I snapped. The table went dead silent. Even Layla stopped eating, sensing the shift in atmosphere. "Irene," Daniel said quietly, "that was uncalled for." "Was it? Your mother just insulted my job and accused me of lying about my whereabouts, but I'm the one who's out of line." "I was simply expressing concern," Nadia said, her voice icy, "as someone who cares about this family. This family was fine before everyone started sticking their noses where they don't belong." "Were we fine?" Daniel asked suddenly. "Because from where I'm sitting, it doesn't feel fine." I turned to look at him, surprised by the steel in his voice. "What's that supposed to mean?" It means you've been distant for weeks. You barely talk to me. You're never home. And when you are here, you act like being around us is a chore. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about logistics? When's the last time you asked about my day, or played with Layla, or acted like you actually wanted to be part of this family? I felt cornered, attacked from all sides. Maybe I'd be more interested in being part of this family if this family was more interesting. Nadia gasped. How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth? I'm sorry if my honesty makes everyone uncomfortable, but I'm tired of pretending everything is perfect when it's not. What exactly isn't perfect? Theo asked calmly. You have a loving husband, a beautiful daughter, a comfortable home. I have a husband who treats me like a roommate, and a daughter who barely knows I exist because everyone acts like Daniel is the only parent that matters. That's not fair, Daniel said, his voice rising. Haven't you? When's the last time you complimented me? When's the last time you made me feel beautiful or interesting, or like I was more than just the person who keeps your house running? I tell you, I love you every day. Love and appreciation aren't the same thing, Daniel. The room fell silent again. I could see Layla's eyes filling with tears, and part of me felt terrible, but I was too angry to stop. Maybe, I continued, if you paid half as much attention to me as you do to your computer, I wouldn't need to find validation elsewhere. What does that mean? Daniel's voice was dangerously quiet. It means I have friends who actually listen to me, who think I'm worth talking to. Friends like who? I hesitated, realizing I'd said too much. Just friends. People who appreciate me for who I am. People like Jasper Klein. The name hit the table like a bomb. Everyone froze, including me. How did he know? I don't know what you're talking about, I said, but my voice shook. Really? Because I called your office on Wednesday to surprise you for lunch, and they said you'd been gone for 3 hours. So I drove around looking for you, and I saw you coming out of his tattoo shop. My mouth went dry. I was just what, Irene? Just visiting your ex-boyfriend's business for 3 hours in the middle of a workday. It's not what you think. Then what is it? Daniel's voice was getting louder. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're having an affair. I am not having an affair, I shouted, standing up so quickly my chair fell backward. Layla started crying. Nadia moved to comfort her while Theo just stared at me with disappointment written all over his face. Then what are you doing? Daniel demanded, standing up as well. I'm trying to remember who I am. I'm trying to feel like a person instead of just a role. By sneaking around with your ex-boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend. He's just someone who understands me. Understands what, exactly? I was trapped, cornered, and I lashed out. Understands that I'm more than just a suburban housewife. That I have depths and interests and a personality beyond doing laundry and packing lunches. Nobody said you were just a housewife, Theo said quietly. But you are a wife. And a mother. Those roles matter. To everyone but me, apparently, I shot back. If they don't matter to you, Nadia said, her voice shaking with anger, then maybe you shouldn't have them. The words hung in the air like a threat. I looked around the table at their faces, Daniel's hurt and confusion, his parents' disappointment and anger, Layla's tears. Maybe I shouldn't, I said finally. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door, leaving them all sitting there in shocked silence. As I drove home, my hands shaking on the steering wheel, I called Jasper. Hey, beautiful, he answered. What's up? Everything's falling apart, I said, tears streaming down my face. They all hate me. Who hates you? Daniel's family. They know I've been seeing you. There was a pause. Seeing me. Irene, we've had coffee twice. I know, but they're acting like we're having some torrid affair. Are we? The question caught me off guard. What? Are we having an affair? Because if we're going to be accused of it anyway. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the car, staring at my house. The house I shared with Daniel and Layla. The house that suddenly felt like a prison. I don't know, I whispered. Well, Jasper said, his voice low and seductive, Maybe it's time to figure it out. As I hung up the phone, I caught sight of myself in the rearview mirror. For a moment, I didn't recognize the woman staring back at me. She looked desperate, angry, and completely lost. But she also looked free. Daniel didn't come home that night. I sat in our empty house, Layla having stayed at her grandparents', and felt the silence pressing down on me like a weight. Around midnight, I heard his key in the door, but instead of coming upstairs, he went to the guest room. The next morning, I found him in the kitchen making coffee, still wearing yesterday's clothes. He looked like he hadn't slept. "We need to talk," he said, without looking at me. "I tried to talk yesterday. Nobody wanted to listen. I'm listening now." He turned to face me, and I was shocked by how tired he looked. "I want to understand what's happening to us." For a moment, I felt a flicker of the old Daniel, the man I'd fallen in love with. But then I remembered how trapped I'd felt, how invisible. "What's happening is that I'm finally being honest about how unhappy I am." Unhappy with me? Unhappy with everything. This house, this life, this version of myself that I've become. Daniel poured 2 cups of coffee and handed me one. "When did it start? The unhappiness?" I thought about it. I don't know. Gradually, I guess. One day I woke up and realized I didn't recognize my own life. "And Jasper makes you feel like yourself again?" The question was loaded, dangerous. "He reminds me of who I used to be, before I became so domestic." "There's nothing wrong with being domestic, Irene. You're a mother, a wife." "That's all I am," I exploded. "Don't you see? That's the problem. I used to have dreams, ambitions, a personality beyond my relationship to other people. You still do. I never asked you to give up anything." "You didn't have to ask. It just happened, slowly, until one day I realized I was completely invisible." Daniel set down his coffee cup. "You're not invisible to me." "When's the last time you really looked at me, Daniel? When's the last time you saw me as a woman, instead of just Layla's mom or your wife?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I look at you every day." "No, you look at what I do for you. There's a difference." "Show me," he said suddenly. "What?" "Show me the tattoo." My blood turned to ice. "What tattoo?" "The one you got at Jasper's shop. Show me." "I don't know what you're talking about." Daniel's face hardened. "Irene, I've been married to you for 8 years. I know when you're lying. Show me the tattoo." "No." "Why not?" "Because it's private. Because it's mine. Because I don't owe you access to every part of my body." "I'm not asking for access to your body. I'm asking you to be honest with me about what's going on." "Nothing is going on." "Then show me." We stared at each other across the kitchen, the tension crackling between us. Finally, Daniel shook his head. "You know what? Don't show me. The fact that you won't tell me everything I need to know." He started to leave, but I grabbed his arm. "Daniel, wait." "For what? For you to lie to me some more? For you to tell me how terrible our life is while you sneak around with your ex-boyfriend?" "It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Irene? Because I'm trying to understand, but you won't give me anything real to work with." I looked at him, this man who'd loved me faithfully for 8 years, who'd given me a beautiful daughter and a comfortable life, and I felt nothing. No love, no guilt, no regret, just irritation that he was making this so difficult. "Maybe," I said slowly, "the problem is that there's nothing left to work with." Daniel's face went pale. "What does that mean?" "It means maybe we've grown apart. Maybe we want different things now." "What do you want, Irene?" "I want to feel alive. I want passion, excitement, spontaneity. I want to feel like a woman instead of just a function." "And I can't give you that." I looked at him, really looked at him, in his wrinkled khakis and polo shirt, his hair mussed from a sleepless night, his eyes red with exhaustion and hurt. "No," I said quietly. "I don't think you can." The words hit him like a physical blow. He actually stepped backward, his hand going to his chest. "I see," he said finally. "Daniel, No, it's fine. It's good to know where we stand. He started to leave again, but this time I didn't stop him. At the doorway, he turned back. Just so you know, I called a lawyer this morning. My heart stopped. What? I called a lawyer. If you want out of this marriage, if you want to be free to pursue whatever this is with Jasper, then we should do it properly. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Daniel, you're overreacting. I never said I wanted a divorce. You didn't have to say it. It's written all over your face every time you look at me. He was right, and we both knew it, but hearing it out loud, seeing the pain in his eyes, made it real in a way that terrified me. What about Layla? What about her? You think she doesn't notice the tension? You think she doesn't see how miserable you are? I'm not miserable. Yes, you are. And you're making all of us miserable too. After he left for work, I sat in the kitchen staring at my phone. Finally, I called Jasper. I need to see you, I said when he answered. When? Now. An hour later, I was in his studio, pacing back and forth while he worked on a client's sleeve. Daniel called a lawyer, I said. Good for him. Good for him? Jasper, this is serious. He's talking about divorce. So, isn't that what you want? I stopped pacing. I don't know what I want. Sure you do. He paused his work to look at me. You want to be free. You want to stop pretending to be someone you're not. It's not that simple. There's Layla to think about, and the house, and nothing. You're either happy or you're not, Irene. You can't live your life for other people. But what if I'm making a mistake? Jasper set down his tattoo gun and told his client he'd be right back. He pulled me into the back room and closed the door. Look at me, he said, taking my face in his hands. You came to me because you were drowning in that suburban life. You got my initials tattooed on your body because some part of you wanted to belong to me instead of him. You're not making a mistake. You're finally being honest. Before I could respond, he kissed me. It was everything Daniel's kisses hadn't been in years. Passionate, desperate, alive. When we broke apart, I was breathless. That's what you've been missing, he said. That's what you deserve. I drove home in a daze, my lips still tingling. Daniel's car was in the driveway, which surprised me. He never came home early. Inside, I found him in his office, papers spread across his desk. He looked up when I walked in. Where were you? Out. With Jasper? I didn't answer, which was answer enough. Daniel nodded slowly. I figured. I've been doing some research on divorce law. Did you know that adultery affects custody arrangements? I'm not committing adultery. No? Then you won't mind if I hire a private investigator to document your activities? You wouldn't. Try me. We stared at each other, and I realized this wasn't the man I'd married. This Daniel was harder, colder, more calculating. It should have scared me, but instead it just made me angry. Fine, I said. Hire your investigator. You won't find anything because there's nothing to find. We'll see. That night, Daniel slept in the guest room again. I lay in our bed, touching the tattoo through my nightgown, and tried to figure out how everything had gotten so complicated so quickly. My phone buzzed with a text from Jasper. Still thinking about that kiss. Can't wait to see you again. I stared at the message for a long time before deleting it, but I didn't delete the feeling it gave me. The private investigator was more thorough than I'd expected. Within a week, Daniel had photos of me entering and leaving Jasper's studio, timestamps showing I'd been there during work hours, and copies of text messages I thought were private. I found out about it when Daniel's lawyer called me at work. Mrs. Voss, this is Jennifer Martinez from Hartley & Associates. I represent your husband in your upcoming divorce proceedings. My hands went numb. Divorce proceedings? We haven't decided anything yet. I'm afraid Mr. Voss has decided. I'm calling to inform you that you'll be served with papers this afternoon and will need to schedule a deposition. A deposition? Given the evidence of adultery, we'll need to establish the timeline and nature of your relationship with Mr. Klein. There is no relationship. Ma'am, we have photographs and communications that suggest otherwise. I'd recommend you retain counsel. The call ended, and I sat at my desk in shock. Around me, the HR office buzzed with normal activity, but I felt like I was underwater. This couldn't be happening. Not really. But it was. At 3 o'clock, a process server appeared at my desk with an envelope that made everything real. Irene Voss? Yes. You've been served. The entire office went quiet as I signed for the papers. I could feel everyone staring, whispering. By the time I got home, the humiliation had transformed into rage. Daniel was in the kitchen with Layla, helping her with homework. He looked up when I stormed in, waving the papers. "How dare you?" I shouted. "Daddy, why is Mommy yelling?" Layla asked in a small voice. "Go to your room, sweetheart," Daniel said calmly. "Mommy and I need to talk." After Layla left, I threw the papers on the table. "You humiliated me at work. Everyone saw me get served. You humiliated yourself, Irene. I'm just protecting my interests." "Your interests? What about my interests? What about our daughter's interests?" "Our daughter's interests are exactly what I'm protecting. She needs stability, not a mother who's having an affair." "I am not having an affair." Daniel pulled out a folder and spread photos across the table. Me entering Jasper's studio. Me leaving 3 hours later. Me and Jasper at a coffee shop, his hand on mine. Me kissing him in the parking lot. My stomach dropped. "You had me followed. I had to know the truth. The truth is that you're a controlling, paranoid." "The truth," Daniel interrupted, his voice deadly calm, "is that you've been lying to me for weeks. The truth is that you've been cheating on me with your ex-boyfriend while I've been trying to save our marriage. One kiss doesn't constitute cheating. One kiss that I know about. How many that I don't?" I opened my mouth to deny it, but the words wouldn't come, because the truth was, I wanted there to be more. I wanted to be the woman in those photos, free and passionate and alive. "I want half of everything," I said instead. Daniel laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want half, after abandoning your family for another man?" "I didn't abandon anyone." "Really? When's the last time you helped Layla with homework? When's the last time you cooked dinner or did laundry, or acted like you lived here?" "I do live here." "No, you sleep here, sometimes. There's a difference." I sank into a chair, suddenly exhausted. "Daniel, please. We can work this out. We can go to counseling." "It's too late for that." "It's never too late. We have 8 years together. We have Layla." "We had 8 years. You threw them away the moment you decided I wasn't enough for you." "That's not what happened." "Isn't it?" He sat down across from me. "Tell me, Irene, if Jasper asked you to leave me tomorrow, would you?" The question hung between us like a challenge. I wanted to say no, wanted to reassure him that our marriage meant something to me. But looking at him across the table, I realized the answer was yes. If Jasper asked, I would go. Daniel saw it in my face. "That's what I thought." "Daniel, I've already moved my things to my parents' house. Layla will stay with me during the week, and with you on weekends, assuming you can arrange your social calendar around her. You can't take my daughter away from me. I'm not taking her away. I'm providing her with a stable environment while you figure out what you want. I want my family." "No, you don't. You want the security of family while you pursue your freedom. You can't have both." That night, alone in the house that suddenly felt enormous and empty, I called my mother. "Irene, what's wrong?" Through tears, I told her everything. About the tattoo, about Jasper, about the divorce papers. "Oh, honey," she said when I finished, "what have you done?" "I was just trying to find myself, Mom. I felt so lost, so invisible. But Daniel's such a good man, and Layla needs her father. She needs her mother too. Does she? Because from what you're telling me, you haven't been much of a mother lately." The words hit like a slap. "How can you say that?" "Because it's true. You've been so focused on yourself, on your feelings, that you forgot about everyone else. I thought you'd understand. I thought you'd support me. I do support you, sweetheart, but I can't support what you've done to your family. After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the couch, staring at the family photos on the mantel. Daniel and me on our wedding day, both of us so young and hopeful. Layla as a baby, as a toddler, growing up in increments across the frames. When had I stopped being happy in these pictures? When had I started feeling trapped instead of blessed? My phone buzzed with a text from Jasper. Heard about the divorce. You okay? Not really, I typed back. Want company? I stared at the message for a long time. This was it, the moment of no return. If I said yes, if I let him come over, there would be no going back to Daniel, no pretending this was all a misunderstanding. Yes, I typed. An hour later, Jasper was in my living room, looking around at the evidence of my domestic life with obvious disdain. This place is so suburban, he said. It's my home. Is it? Or is it Daniel's home that you happen to live in? I looked around, trying to see it through his eyes. The furniture Daniel had picked out, the color scheme his mother had suggested, the family photos that suddenly felt like evidence of a life I'd never really chosen. I don't know anymore, I admitted. Well, Jasper said, pulling me into his arms, now you get to find out who you really are. As he kissed me in the living room where Daniel and I had watched countless movies, where Layla had taken her first steps, I felt like I was burning down my old life to make room for something new. It should have felt liberating. Instead, it just felt like destruction. 3 months later, I sat in a courtroom that smelled like old wood and broken dreams, watching my marriage officially end. My lawyer, a tired-looking woman named Patricia Chen, shuffled through papers while Daniel's attorney presented his case with military precision. Your Honor, Jennifer Martinez said, the evidence clearly shows a pattern of abandonment and adultery that has created an unstable environment for the minor child. I wanted to object, to stand up and scream that it wasn't that simple, but Patricia had coached me to stay quiet. Let them hang themselves, she'd said, but it felt like I was the one hanging. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed the evidence methodically. The photos of me with Jasper, the financial records showing unexplained absences from work, the testimony from Daniel's parents about my behavior at family gatherings. Mrs. Voss, the judge said, looking at me over her glasses, would you like to respond to these allegations? I stood up, my legs shaking. Your Honor, I admit I made mistakes, but I never stopped loving my daughter, and I never intended for things to go this far. Yet you engaged in an extramarital relationship while living in the family home. It wasn't like that. I was confused, unhappy. I made poor choices, but I'm not a bad mother. The court isn't here to determine if you're a bad mother, Mrs. Voss. We're here to determine what's in the best interests of the child. Daniel's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, we'd like to present additional evidence. She handed the judge a folder I'd never seen before. As the judge reviewed it, her expression grew more disapproving. Mrs. Voss, were you aware that your daughter has been seeing the school counselor due to anxiety related to the marital discord? My heart stopped. What? According to this report, Layla has been exhibiting signs of distress, difficulty sleeping, problems concentrating, emotional outbursts. The counselor notes that she's expressed confusion about why Mommy doesn't want to be home anymore. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I didn't know. Furthermore, the judge continued, there are reports from your workplace indicating excessive absences and declining performance. Your supervisor notes that you've been distracted and unreliable for several months. Your Honor, Patricia stood up, my client has been under tremendous personal stress. Stress that she created through her own choices. Martinez interrupted. Court, primary custody to Daniel. I get supervised visits every other weekend, 30% assets, pay my fees, mandatory counseling. Daniel, Talk through lawyers. Walks away with Layla. Call Jasper. You gained freedom. We lasted 3 weeks. Visits with Layla. Heartbreaking questions. Are you coming home? 6 months. Receptionist. Shoebox apt. Jasper arrested. Drugs. Secret recordings. Planned blackmail. 1 year. Daniel remarries Sarah. Layla calls her Mommy Sarah. Has baby brother. 2 years. Layla shows family photos, happy without me. I admit, I'm sad, but your happiness matters. Drove past boarded up shop, black rose tattoo, my mark of destruction. Threw away love for a con.